From the Bent Pixel Studios in suburban Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Phone Booth Fighting, a twice-weekly podcast brought to you absolutely free, courtesy of that guy. Who are you?
I'm Frank Mir.
And this guy, who am I? Richard Hunter.
I was going to answer that one for you, too.
Oh, what?
I was ready to answer that one for you, too.
Oh, well, good. Well,
I was already 1 for 1, you know.
You know, it's a good day when Frank remembers both of our names. That's good to see. We are doing it for you once again, and we do it twice weekly, and we do it absolutely free. How can that be? How can we possibly do that? Well, we do it with the support of some fine sponsors, and we also do it with the support of you guys. Let's start out with that. How can you guys help support us? Well, what you can do is go to phoneboothfighting.com and click through that Amazon banner on this Prime Day of all days, which I guess is now some sort of de facto national holiday when everybody does their Amazon shopping. Frank, explain how going to phoneboothfighting.com and clicking through that Amazon banner benefits us.
Well, by doing that, that's about the only effort you'll have to do to help support the show. By shopping for your wants and needs on our Amazon banner or going through that portal, a small percentage will come back to here at the show to help us out.
You can do that. You can also buy our official show merchandise at phoneboothfighting.com. A selection of T-shirts, multiple styles, all sizes available, big and small, color variation as well. And by the way, Doug Stanhope Celebrity Death Pool sent me a box of their shirts, just as a nice thing to do, and wanted us to share those with our listeners. So while supplies last, I guess you could say we're having somewhat of a 2-for-1 sale at phoneboothfighting.com. While supplies last, if you order one of our shirts, I'm going to throw in a Doug Stanhope Celebrity Death Pool shirt free. And we also have some drink coasters that they sent us, which are very uplifting. They say everybody dies on the drink coaster. So, yeah, that was, in fact, yesterday was trade round day for Doug Stanhope Celebrity Death Pool. I know that meant something to the people in our Phone Booth Fighting League. We need to do a Death Pool update here pretty soon on the show. We'll do that for you guys. So there's 2 ways you can support us. And you know what? If you're a little cash poor right now, that's okay. There is a free way, an absolutely free way to support the show. Go to iTunes, look up Phone Booth Fighting, and click on the 5 stars. That gives us a top review. You can also, if you're feeling particularly generous, take a moment, write a favorable line or 2 in the comment section. That benefits us as well, and we like to read those on the air. We'll be doing that again very shortly. Your review could be heard on the next installment. All right, before we get to Fight Talk, because we've got main event attractions in the UFC and Bellator from this past weekend to talk about, and before we get to our buddy Billy Bob Thornton, who is returning to the show today with his band, the Boxmasters, we got to tell you about Low T Nation, Frank. I always start this off. Why don't you start it off? I'll play dumb Low T Nation guy. LowTNation.com. What's this all about?
Well, if you're a male and you're feeling, and you're 35 years of age or older, and
that's me.
And you're feeling a little down on your energy, your mojo. Maybe not exactly where you used to be in the bedroom. Give the guys a call there, Brandon and Jason, and they can go through and talk to you. See if you're a candidate. At that moment, they'll, if it seems like you're checking off all the right boxes, they'll send you to get further blood work done. And that's, again, the most effort you're going to make on your part. After that, the physicians check it out, and they will make sure that you're getting your prescriptions to you monthly, mailed directly to your door.
When these guys started with us, and they've been with us quite a while now, I was happy to have them on board. We were certainly appreciative of their support, but to be honest, I just had no idea how many of our listeners would or wouldn't benefit from their product. I thought, well, we're going to give it our best shot. We're going to talk about it on the show, but, we'll see what happens. Maybe there's only a few people that will take them up on it and get on board with the Low T Nation way. Au contraire, as the French say. We have heard from so many listeners who not only have benefited from Low T Nation, but are very satisfied with their customer service, with the support that they get whenever because it is an ongoing process. You keep checking with them. They look at levels, things like that, make sure everything's good. And guys who are literally getting new leases on life and turning back the hands of time, courtesy of Low T Nation. So I know there's a lot of you out there. I also know there's probably a few more of you who haven't contacted them yet, but would be really smart to do so. So do yourself a favor. It's no cost for the free telephone consultation. Give them a ring and see if you're one of the people I'm describing. Go to lowtnation.com. Call the phone number on the front of the website and tell them Frank Mir and Richard Hunter from Phone Booth Fighting sent you. All right, Frank. Speaking of new leases on life, speaking of turning back the hands of time, speaking of feeling my age, today kicked off week 2 of the 22-week Wimp to Warrior training process for me. It's all good. Haven't missed a training session. Been there every second of it. We start at 7 a.m. sharp. You and I are in the same gym actually doing this. Different times a day, but we're both over at Syndicate MMA. So if the mat seems particularly sweaty by the time you get on it, that's probably me.
No, they're really good about cleaning it, thank goodness.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out on the mats.
I always look for that. I'm a mat inspector when I first go into a gym. I do basically the equivalent of putting on the white glove and running it down the I like a clean gym. Syndicate MMA is definitely a clean facility.
I've gotten more that way as I've had kids.
Yeah.
Because when I first started out, like to this day, I've still I don't get ringworm. I don't get folliculitis.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, I'm fucking patient zero.
Yeah.
But I transfer that shit over to my kids pretty well, so now I'm more cautious of making sure that,
And I spend a lot of time in physical contact with you, so I'm aware of that too. Yeah, keep an eye on that.
I was gonna say, do they have like a janitor, or do they make like the lowest trainees on the totem pole mop the mats like back in high school wrestling?
No, they actually have personnel. But
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, we always made the freshmen do it. And
yeah, no, that's more typical.
They went, it's fucking bullshit. They did a really bad job,
and that's really
everyone
still
got
the
ringworm.
protocol of most gyms, but
Yeah.
Syndicate's big enough that John Wood actually has people that,
Okay.
clean it.
It's their job.
That's
That's
their
good.
job. Yeah, because, it actually
Yeah.
more consistent that way, because I'm sure you remember back in the day that freshman that got
Yeah.
screwed over. He doesn't necessarily
No.
take
Yeah.
pride in his work.
We mopped about 15% of the mat. And
Yeah.
He'd be like, "Hey, did you put any detergent or any kind of bleach inside the water?"
Yeah,
Clean it?"
dude.
No,
No way.
Yeah.
Bleach? You're supposed to put bleach in that? Put something there. You don't think fucking warm water is gonna fucking fix the situation?
Another thing I like about being around there too, and I actually don't. I'm just making an assumption here. I actually don't know who this person is, but I've seen a lady that shows up right about the time we end our training sessions. She's like an older lady, and I think she might be like somebody's mom or something like that. And that's actually another good sign, because it's always.
Is it Mama Wood?
Oh, is that her name? I think I heard her name was Mary.
Yeah, John's mom.
Oh, that's his mom.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, then my instincts were right. But what I was going to say is, that's always kind of reassuring too, because moms will run a tight ship.
She does.
You know what I mean?
She keeps everything. In fact, she had to. It was funny. I was sitting there, and at the end of practice today, somebody was trying to jump into the Muay Thai practice. I guess it wasn't a regular yet. Just somebody that came in the door and were gonna take class, which I think that's weird. But the instructor, instead of him addressing it, once he figured out that the guy wasn't there, he had walked over to her. I was sitting there talking to her, and he's like, "Hey, real quick, this guy over here, he needs to sign up. He just thinks he's joined in." And so she walked over. She's the enforcer too.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, very nice. Yeah.
We have all these professional fighters, and we send the mom over there. Go tell him he's not supposed to do that. Mom! Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice. Well, so that's what Frank and I, if you want to see, because we talked about it on the last show, we're going to be following my progress or lack thereof, hopefully the former, on the show over the next, what is now 21 weeks in the Wimp to Warrior program. But go to wimptowarrior.com and see what Richie Cranny and the guys are doing over there. An international program you can actually be a part of. It's for guys with essentially little to no fight training. And and at the end of it, we fight someone. That's the plan. Your color commentator from ACB, or your play-by-play guy to your color commentator, Brian Lacey, did it, and I remember him talking about doing it on the last episode. If you missed our last episode, we actually had the guys in studio that run the program. They give us a lot of details about it. So check it out if you want to get up to speed, because we'll definitely be talking about it as my aches and pains progress right here on the show.
So you guys get done about 8:30?
Yep.
Nah, that's too long. I was going to say, because I think I'm going to start coming in a couple times at 10 o'clock and teach a couple of those classes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there
that's
you go.
An hour and a half for you sitting around. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's all right. You let me know when you're going to. If I got the day off, I'll stick around. Yeah, for sure. Okay. UFC and Bellator went head-to-head this weekend. Bellator had 2 events. Bellator went back-to-back. They had one in Oklahoma, and then they had one in Italy. We were talking last week about how Bellator, they got Italy locked down. They may not even know about UFC over there in Italy, because Bellator takes care of the Italian market. But Bellator 203 went down, a much-anticipated featherweight title rematch between the champion, Patricio Pitbull, and Daniel Weichel. Their first fight was fireworks for a little under 2 rounds. Weichel had Pitbull in serious trouble at the end of round 1, and then Pitbull comes back and KOs Weichel in round 2. That was how their first fight went. This second one, not exactly a rock'em sock'em affair like that, but very compelling nonetheless. It goes to a 5-round split decision with Patricio Pitbull retaining his title. A pretty slow first round, but by the time it got to the second, we saw some fists flying. Weichel rocks Pitbull in the second, and then in the third, Weichel catches a kick from Pitbull, converts that to a takedown, and gets top control for a large part of the round. Then they trade shots to end the round, and then in the fourth, with about a minute left, Pitbull wins an exchange of punches and takes Weichel to the ground again. Big John McCarthy on his color commentary said that he thought going into the fifth that the fight was on the line. I agreed with that. One judge did not, however, and Pitbull wins in my opinion, a really close decision, 48-47 on 2 of the judges' scorecards, 1 for Weichel, 1 for Pitbull, and then the deciding tally was 49-46 in favor of Pitbull. I didn't see the 49-46, but still, nonetheless,
that's only one round they disagreed on.
Right. Nonetheless, a really close fight. Anything jump out to you there as far as what you think, maybe what particularly sways judges right or wrong?
Well, no, I think basically the main theme of the fight was that both guys had a healthy respect for each other's power.
Especially from the first fight, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen that before where, you have some war in the first fight, and in the second fight, it's kind of like they know what's possible.
Yeah.
And so
especially
sometimes
in that weight class.
Turns out more calculated.
The lighter
right?
the weight class, the lower the knockout percentages typically are, because the smaller guys don't generate the same amount of power. I mean, you don't see, on average, a guy that weighs 155 pounds walking the mound throwing, 99-mile-an-hour fastballs, because, typically, larger men throw harder and have longer levers and more weight to explode and put power behind. And both those individuals, Patricio and the challenger, they are uncommonly powerful punchers. So I don't think, I think both of them became aware that, hey, the other guy lands on me, he could put me out. I mean, it wasn't like Patricio could say that he couldn't get put out or vice versa. Both guys showed power to hurt each other decisively in the first round. I mean, really, honestly, the clock kind of saved Patricio in that first fight, or it would have been a first-round knockout against him, and then he showed the power to come back and knock out. And so I think that's what we really kind of saw in the fight, where they were very cautious of the striking, and it kind of played out more into a grappling match with takedowns and more dominant position and more technique instead of throwing caution to the wind.
With that win, Patricio Pitbull ties Michael Chandler for all-time Bellator wins, I think with 15. And Daniel Weichel goes past the third round for the first time in his career. But a quality main event, especially going head-to-head with a UFC Fight Night card on the part of Bellator. Julia Budd, by the way, the night before in Oklahoma retained her UFC featherweight title. And when you look at not prospects, a champion
Bellator,
in an
UFC
organization in Bellator. What's that? Yeah, in Bellator. But the thing I was going to say about...
Mike Mouth to do.
But the thing about...
You said UFC.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say UFC? Yeah, sorry. But with Julia... But, well, I think, to finish my point, what I was actually going to say was we've talked about in the UFC featherweight division how just that size of a woman is much more in common than, say, a flyweight. And Julia Budd is dominating over at that weight class in Bellator, right where Cyborg left off when Cyborg, left the Bellator organization. So I just wonder if at some point before Cyborg wraps it up, or some of these other female featherweights that we're seeing, if Julia Budd doesn't stake more of a claim to the legacy there too. All right, UFC had a Fight Night card in Boise, Idaho. Their first time to go to Boise, Idaho. Sold it out.
Big time wrestling town.
Yeah, big wrestling town. Also a really good crowd. Like
football too. We like.
Yeah, and this was pointed out on the commentary. But one thing that was really good about this fight card was there weren't even when the fans were getting a little restless by lack of action, they didn't just immediately go to like a boo or boring chant or something like that. They were just stomping their feet, which to me was a little more, it's kind of a way to say, hey, it'd be cool if there was a little more action in this fight without appearing to be kind of the dumb fan, where you're like, oh, there's nothing going on here when you could really be talking about moments of technical strategy. But your main event had the former UFC heavyweight champion and a former opponent of yours, Frank Junior Dos Santos, taking on Blagoy Ivanov. Now, he was making his debut in the organization in the UFC. That's a tough way to make your debut against JDS. But he was a former World Series of Fighting heavyweight champion, and he loses a unanimous decision to JDS. Wasn't a close fight. But Ivanov was tough. Obviously, JDS could not put him away. He was a guy that had a pretty decorated sambo and judo background. He actually beat Fedor in 2008 in sambo.
Fedor's winning streak. At that point,
Yeah.
Fedor hadn't lost, I think, a sambo match in like years.
Yeah, he beat him about 10 years ago. He carried a 16-1 record into the octagon. So with this loss to Junior Dos Santos, his only other loss was to Alexander Volkov back in Bellator. 6 KOs, 6 submissions. So, for a guy making his debut in the UFC, definitely brought a pretty good-looking resume with him. But Junior Dos Santos looked good. And following the fight, Francis Ngannou called out Junior Dos Santos. If you remember, that fight was originally supposed to take place between the two of them back in September. It made sense then, and I can say it makes sense now because Ngannou has just come off of this loss against Derek Lewis. Junior Dos Santos, with a win, is working his way back up the rankings in the division. So you would have JDS taking on what at this point is still a higher-ranked opponent, Francis Ngannou. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, it does. And, I think it's a good fight for Ngannou because JDS is very busy and will put pressure on him. I don't think we're going to see a fight where he hesitates. I think JDS is very confident with his footwork and his hands. So I think that Ngannou's going to be forced to fight. So I think that he needs that. And I think also, too, the mindset to know that JDS most likely is not going to shoot on him will help break up that fear that he had in the last fight. Because even though, Derek Lewis is not known as somebody that will try to shoot on you. He is capable of taking people down, and he's grounded and pounded some guys and gotten takedowns. So he's an opportunist as a takedown artist. Whereas JDS, I don't think I've ever even seen him change levels or shoot or go for a leg on anybody.
And it was strange because he's always been touted as a jiu-jitsu black belt, and yet, can you think of an example where someone has brought a jiu-jitsu? We've always known somebody to have a jiu-jitsu black belt, but yet maybe seen so little of it. I mean, maybe just because your boxing is so accomplished, or that's not what.
I think that's what it is. I think that, heavyweights are in love with striking anyways. It's easier than grappling. Grappling is fatiguing. So it's a very rare heavyweight that'll go to the grappling rounds. Like Verdum has very good conditioning for grappling. Cain Velasquez has good conditioning for grappling. So you'll see those guys push that area more. Where JDS, he has more of an Ngannou type muscle tissue where he's very explosive, very quick. Even though I know he knows all the proper techniques and he's very, for someone to give him a black belt in jiu-jitsu, obviously he knows what he's doing on the ground. But I don't think that his athleticism is suited towards that's his best area, Just like, on the flip side, Fabricio Verdum is a very skilled striker, but he still doesn't have the athleticism that puts him into that elite top 2 or 3 in the world as a striker because of his lack of his just power punching, his ability to put someone's lights out with his hands. But his grappling, because he has much more of an endurance athlete type of build, grappling is suited more for him, and he's also a high-level black belt, one of the best in the world at it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, I guess, and two, I was just trying to answer my own question in my head. I guess for a good portion of time, that was kind of something we saw with Roy Nelson's fights as well, because he became such a knockout artist that sometimes yes, sometimes no, but we didn't see a lot of groundwork on him. And that makes sense, though, from a heavyweight perspective. And also, too, I think Roy
kind of, he's always had a big belly, and he knows how to use it for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I think in the last couple years of his career, it's gotten a little out of hand.
Yeah.
And so I think it makes some of his groundwork difficult. So he has an easier time, and he has such a powerful overhand right that he's had a lot of success with it. And that kind of, it's one of those things where you're a victim of your own success. Sometimes when you're really good at something, it makes you stray away from other areas. And even though Roy is an extremely accomplished, very good, I've sat in the room and talked to him jiu-jitsu move for jiu-jitsu. People could be worse off with a lot of other choices having him as a jiu-jitsu coach. He's that good and understands that much about the ground. But it's funny, most people would forget that because he has such a good overhand right that he just goes to that, and which is a shame because if he was a little lighter, he would be able to get more takedowns, I think, and be able to shoot more often, and he'd be a pain in the ass to be on top of you. He's very dangerous there.
Do you think from a heavyweight perspective, just in terms of aging, as you maybe get into your late 30s and things like that, just for the average heavyweight, that jiu-jitsu or maybe even wrestling for that matter would kind of take a back seat to striking, assuming you could do all three just by virtue of the fact that power is the last thing to go, but endurance.
It does, but it shouldn't. Here's my thoughts on it. The reason why striking can always be something someone can always be in the mix in, because when you're a heavyweight, power punching, you're going to be able to hit hard until you're probably in your 70s.
Yeah.
Just the way it is. I've seen guys in their 60s that were former professional boxers. Even right now, if George Foreman wanted to punch me in the face, I'd probably say, no, thank you. I'm going to slip that shit.
Yeah.
That guy probably still hits fucking massively hard. Now, does he hit as hard? I seen the perfect example. I just was with Jose Canseco again, and we went to the batting cages, and he was giving Bella a little bit of a lesson on how to, swing. And he swung the bat through the air. And that fucking thing, I stopped for a second. I looked over. I was like, holy shit, did you hear that? I heard it cut through the wind. He goes, oh, yeah, no, I still have one of the fastest bat swings in the world. I was like, holy shit. And the guy, he's 54 years old, I think now. I wouldn't want to get hit by that, So it shows that power stays there. So you're always going to be in that game because the way the human anatomy is, anybody can get caught with a punch. Even Roy Jones Jr., or even Mayweather at his best still gets hit. I seen Shane Mosley connect on him. So what happens is guys get older. I think what they typically kind of start doing, and I started following into that too, where it's like, well, I'm still always going to be able to land a shot, and if I land one, you're going to fucking go out. It's like, yeah, but as we get older, our reaction time's going to slow down. Our ability to see things is going to slow down, but our power doesn't necessarily slow down. So why don't we make it more of a grappling match? And that's how I'm starting to look at things like, look, I'm 39 now. You know, I don't think I've hit the change yet, but I mean, even talking to my eye doctor, the last time I just went for my last visual, my eyesight's still 20/20. But he goes, oh, yeah, that's going to stop when you hit about 42, 43. I'm like, what? He goes, oh, yeah, as soon as you hit that age, the formation of the eye, age, this and that. He goes, no one, dude, you're not immortal.
Give us a little preview as to what that's going to look like.
So once I hit 44, he's all, wow.
Yeah. No, you don't put him up like that. Put him kind of down. There you go. Yeah. This is Phone Booth Fighting circa 2024. Yeah, 2020, right?
So anyway, so I think that, you know, and that's one thing that I've now is like, you know what, I love striking. I love, you know, the striking aspect of martial arts. But I am starting to really like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and I've become well-rounded. I've worked on things that were my weaknesses in the past. I'm going to put more of my eggs in the basket of like, I need to make it more grappling matches and force it into a grappling realm, because I feel like a young guy then loses his advantage of that. Okay, you know, and again, it's not like it's major differences, but we're talking, you know, you lose 1/10 of a second. That might not be much to just you and I. We walk around every day. It's like, well, what's 1/10 of a second? Light turns green. You know, I fucking put my guy. You're not going to see a difference there. But when you're trying to slip a jab being thrown by a professional fighter, 1/10 of a second could be the difference between, I mean, the best example of that was Roy Jones Jr. His whole defense was really off of reaction time. He had a world-class athlete. Like at hhis prime, I would put him up against any other athlete. You know, you want to have these tests to see who's more athletic. I'm like, that motherfucker was half a ninja. You know what I mean? Like his ability to just slip and move out of the way. Then all of a sudden after he won the world title, he became the heavyweight champ of the world, beat John Ruiz. Then when he came down and had to defend it, I think that age caught up to him. He had to cut back down to 175. And then he fought Tarver, and then all of a sudden that left hook that normally he slips by a half an inch, caught him. And that was probably a difference of 1/10 of a second. His reaction time was 1/10 of a second slower, difference between that punch missing and that punch putting him into the ropes.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense, and it's actually a pretty good roadmap for older athletes in terms of,
look at the most successful fighters in their older age in MMA. Randy Couture.
Yeah.
That guy, you know, Randy Couture developed pretty good hands towards the end of his career. I mean, he won the heavyweight title, fucking opening round, left inside kick, overhand right, and fucking drops Tim Sylvia, ends up winning on a decision, but pretty much that started off the whole domination, was that his striking improved drastically from just his Greco-Roman. But he still had the foundation in wrestling. And even Dan Henderson, who's known as a power puncher, but if he gets you in the clinch, he fucking mauls you. I mean,
his, I mean, that was the thing. It was always like you didn't even see it so much later on in his career, but you knew he had that base.
Yeah, and so I think if you look at the guys that I think are more successful as they get older, it's the grappling-based guys. Even look at Daniel Cormier, who right now is one of the best in the world. Does he have good hands? Yeah, he's a good boxer, great head movement. You know, he just caught, you know, Miocic with that left, you know, with the right hand to knock him out. But what's his base? His base is grappling, wrestling. You know, and so I think that's why. I mean, here's somebody who's pushing 40, who's still now. You know, I mean, we even make jokes about fighting Brock. It's like he'll get murdered. You know, he'll kill Brock. You know.
Yeah. Saturday night, this past Saturday night, while the fights were going on, I had to watch them on DVR because I was out with our buddy Billy Bob Thornton and his band, the Boxmasters. And now, Frank, you were supposed to be there. And so you had some. This was a weird weekend for you because you were ready to go out of town and you travel later on in the week, all this other kind of stuff. So we were kind of scurrying around trying to pull this interview off, and we did. It happened kind of late in the day of the show. So I went up to the guy's room, and Billy Bob and JD and Teddy, his bandmates, all gathered around. If you don't know, everybody knows Billy Bob Thornton as an Academy Award-winning actor, but before he was an actor, he was a musician. And so he loves to be out there touring with his band. They sold out Red Rock Casino here in Vegas. Now, what bummed me out, it bummed me out not having you for the interview, but what really bummed me out was you didn't get to be around for the after party. Now, the after party was no debaucherous event, but it was, this is Billy Bob Thornton in his element. It was sitting in his hotel room until about 2:30 in the morning, just sitting around telling stories. He's one of the greatest storytellers. And it was just me and Jennifer and a couple other guys that he knew just sitting around swapping stories. And, boy, he can tell you some stuff.
Sorry about that. You know what the mistake was on Saturday that we made was the boys had their football practice, and it was 8 to 10. I'm like, all right, it won't be that bad out there, you know? So I didn't bring an umbrella. We have pop-up tents. And then before you know it, me and Bella, who are watching the practice, we're hiding over by the power box trying to find shade. To get the fuck out of the sun. Like there wasn't a cloud in the sky.
Yeah.
All of a sudden it hit 95 degrees and it's not, you know what I mean, just and bearing down. And then it's on that turf. So the sun, the heat just comes right off of it. We went through, I think I drank a gallon of water in about 45 minutes. So by the time I got home, I was sitting there, I was dealing with a little bit of heat exhaustion. That's why I was like, I had that massive headache and where everything just funnels into one vision. I'm just like, you know, because then Bella's like, okay, we're going to go spar, right? Because we're supposed to go do grappling with James. So we're going to go to Cobra Kai and do some gi training, and so right off the bat, I'm like, I ain't gonna make that. And so I was like, okay, we'll go back and try to do some stand up. We'll do an open sparring day over at Syndicate. I laid down at the house, like, oh, let me just get 15 minutes, just air conditioning and some, you know, a rag on the head. I woke up like 3 hours later, sick to my stomach. I'm like, I think I'm done.
Yeah. No, sounds like it. Well, before we play this interview that I did with Billy Bob and the Boxmasters, you're going to hear something in this interview come up a lot that I want to turn you on to, Frank, and also our listeners here on Phone Booth Fighting for maybe future discussion on the show. Billy Bob and I now have a mutual obsession with Mike Judge's new animated series called Tales from the Tour Bus.
I didn't know Mike Judge came out with something new.
Yeah. Now, you know Mike Judge, of course, Beavis and Butthead, King of the Hill, Idiocracy, Office Space. Yeah, you never did?
Nah, I wasn't King of the Hill. I watched a couple episodes, and I just didn't snatch me up.
Yeah. No, I
like Idiocracy. I mean, that movie's fucking... it's a little Nostradamus.
I know, we're living it. Yeah, we're totally living
it.
Dude,
for real. Like, I mean, you know how many times I've sat there and go, holy shit, this is really hot. Especially the breeding part. Like how that movie opens up is exactly the truth right now. Like all dumb motherfuckers are having multiple children by multiple women and just like, and it's like the smart asshole like has like one fucking kid, maybe none. You know, I'm like, oh shit, man. The smart people are out getting outbred by the fucking dumbasses. Yeah. We're screwed.
Yeah,
Gatorade for everybody.
Mikey, I have seen Frank around my girlfriend where he almost becomes visibly angry at the fact that we have not reproduced, that we don't have kids.
Yeah, like you have an obligation to fucking help out. Like I'm like, come on. You guys have a kid, that thing will be well taken care of, well educated, is going to be a fucking asset to society. But no. Or you know what, the next thing I'm like, you know what, okay, hey, look, motherfucker, then adopt one of these dumbasses that fucking somebody else couldn't take care of, and then
one of the ones that got repoed.
Raise them right, you know?
Yeah.
That's my argument for homosexual marriages.
Yeah.
Adoption.
Yeah.
Big time. Because here's the thing. You know, you're off on tangent here like we always do. But like, look, if you told me right now the kid moving next door to me is going to be somebody who got raised in the foster care system, or to be some kid that had two dads or two moms, I'm taking that kid.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like, look, we can argue whether it's, I'm like, look, no perfect household exists. You know what I mean? Like every household has its shortcomings. You know, heterosexual, mom, dad, you know, you name it. There's issues with everything. But I'm just telling you that, you know, not being loved when you're a kid is probably one of the worst things as far as like, if you look at these fucking maniacs, most of them, it's like, you know, that joke, like, oh, he needed a hug. I'm like, you know, we're making a joke, but there's some truth behind that shit.
There is. And also, you think about those adopted families, they had to qualify for that. They had to earn it.
Yeah, they didn't just fuck in the back of a Volkswagen.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
right. No, they had to work for that. Yeah, meanwhile, Mikey and I are just adopting dogs. That's what we're doing. Yeah.
We are trying for kids.
You'll probably edit
Oh,
this
you're going
out.
to?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know where I stand in the good or bad category.
You're a pretty
but
intelligent guy.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
yeah.
hopefully. Yeah,
You're
hopefully.
good.
We're trying.
But like the other thing too, like now this will probably drive people insane, but look, dude, if you have fucking 9 kids with 9 different fucking dads and shit, and you're on the welfare system, I think at some point we should be able to sterilize you.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, holy shit, you know, we do it with dogs all the time, you know, I mean, certain people just like you said, I mean, look, I need a fucking license to drive a car.
Right.
I need a license to fucking pretty much do anything in fucking this world, you know what I mean? You know, background checks to buy firearms, that all makes sense to people. But, like, there's nothing probably more detrimental and you could fuck up worse than being someone's parent.
Yeah, I mean,
and, like, and there's no qualifications. And still, when we see people that are fucked up, parents, it's like, oh, this guy's an asshole. We're just going to still let him have kids? Yep, can't stop him. It's their right. I'm all, at what point do we get together and go, hey, you know what? They're not smart enough to make these decisions for themselves. Let's go ahead and fucking...
This person does not understand cause and effect.
Yeah.
That's going to be
like
a big
anti-vaxxers,
problem.
man. Like vaccine people. It's like,
yeah.
You know what? At a certain point, I'm like, you're just too fucking stupid. I'm sorry.
Well, I think that's like the number one reason why people are below the poverty level is children out of wedlock. It's like if you have a job, if you've graduated high school and you don't have a child out of wedlock, it's like 98% live above the poverty level who've like hit those 3 markers.
Yeah.
So that's like one of the big things. I mean, out of wedlock, basically, not that married, but like I think what it really means is in a couple relationship. So if you have baby mamas and daddies instead of, you know, boyfriend, girlfriend, or husband, wife kind of scenarios.
Well, you would just have more stability. I mean, you'd have a 2-income household, for example. You'd have more direct parenting. You'd have less daycare and things like that. Daycare.
That's
stuff
why I stopped
alone,
having kids. I mean, really, honestly, like I made a conscious decision not to have any more children because the 3 that I have, as much fucking money as I make, and as much time as I have because of the job that I'm afforded, I still feel like I don't fucking get it enough. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, holy shit. You know what I mean? So these families, it's like, you want to have 6, 7, 8 fucking kids. It's like, do you even realize you got to take care of these motherfuckers too? You know what I mean? Like, it's not just fucking popping them out and just, you know, who's going to raise them? The fucking neighborhood? You know what I mean? Like the kid next door is fucking you know what I mean? Like, that's what leads to fucking all these issues.
I'll tell you what I hear about sometimes too is the daycare issues because like Jennifer had a friend actually just today that had their first baby, and they're like a, you know, good, I mean, they're going to be good parents and everything, but her friend was telling her just about like shopping for the day because they're already planning that far out in advance, like a few years from now, you know, and all that. Yeah. It's so expensive. I mean, some people like they're probably lucky to even break even having a job.
There's a lot of people I know that in the middle class era economy range that the person who has the second job pretty much just pays for the daycare.
Right.
It's almost a point where I'm like, well, I guess you have insurance, so that's the positive. Like maybe that's the kicker usually when I ask them, because sometimes I'm like, honestly, it'd almost be cheaper if you just quit your fucking job.
That's what we're looking at is when I Google stuff every now and then and go, you know, I think about it because I with my job I have a lot of like weird days off.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird because I'm like, I would hate to pay like for a daycare because like if I have, you know, random Wednesday, Thursday off and then Amanda works, you know, Monday through Thursday or whatever, it'd be kind of, I don't know. So that's the one thing we kind of struggle about.
It's a stranger taking care of your child.
That's her big thing.
That's my biggest fucking thing. Because I mean, you know what? Hey, look, nobody's gonna watch your kid like you're gonna watch your kid. You know what I mean? And especially before your baby can talk. Yeah. You know.
That's
My neighbor almost got killed because of that. Like I seriously probably would have went to prison because of being protective and your kid's not talking. One time, fucking Cage is quiet. He comes in the room and he was probably about 6 years old. I'm sitting eating at the table and Cage comes up and sits down at the table. And this my point being, like, kids that can communicate. Now, obviously, he's 6 years old. He can fucking hold a conversation. Yeah. So I just look at Cage like, hey, what's up, buddy? He doesn't say a word to me. I was like, that's kind of weird. You know? So I'm looking over. I'm like, hey, Cage. And now I'm like, Cage. And he looks at me like, hey, is everything all right? And he just looks forward again. Like now he's like fucking ghosting me and shit. I'm like, so now I made matters worse because now I got a little like, motherfucker, talk to me. What's going on? Are you okay? I stand him up and I'm looking at him like, are you all right? What's wrong? Like, Cage, what's going on? Talk to me. Like, I'm in a panic mode now because my son's catatonic, won't talk to me. He sets his head down on the fucking table and starts crying, right? Now, my brain doesn't realize he's probably crying because I'm freaking out and I'm 275 fucking pounds.
Yeah.
His father standing over the top. I'm like, talk to me.
Yeah.
But it's just because he was tired. That's all it was. But I sit down and I jump up and was he at the fucking neighbor's house? Like, what the fuck? And I'm like sitting there going, okay, how many people they have over there? I'm like, I'm like fucking doing the calculations. Like, okay, I'm going to go through the back door. I can kill everybody before they get out the fucking front door. You know what I mean? Like, I've lost my mind at this point. Like, everybody's dying. You know what I mean? Like, and then finally Jennifer jumps in and she starts talking to him and it's like, I'm just tired.
Yeah,
I had to sit there for a little bit, like,
he looks
relax.
at Frank's wife. Is like, no, it's not that I didn't want to talk. I just didn't want to talk to him. I'll talk to you. What's going on?
Which is rare because usually I'm the one, 99% of the time, that has a much more role with the kids as far as, hey, let's talk. Hey, I love you. Do you love me? You know what I mean? Like, I'm real affectionate. I'm very easy to talk to. I don't ever freak out. Bar this situation. Yeah. Typically, I don't freak out. So that being said, like, could you imagine you pick up your kid and, they cry or something, they have a red mark somewhere, they didn't have a red mark, like, you don't know. It's like, well, we don't know how that happened, mister. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen too many of those videos on those nanny cams. Jesus. Like, could you imagine? Like, to me, it's like if I was a cop and I showed up and be like, well, what happened? I beat this fucking bitch within an inch of her life. Well, what happened? Well, here's a nanny cam. They were shaking my son around, or my kid, my daughter, and was beating my kid's ass. Like, oh, you let her live too? Awesome. Good for you. You know what? Good on you. Anyways, we'll mace her and throw her in the back in the trunk of the car and let her sit in the heat for a little while. You know what I mean? Like, now it's our turn to kick her ass. You know what I mean? Like to hurt a child, you know what I mean? Like, you're a scumbag and you deserve the worst that's coming to you.
Yeah, and just the fact that we even spent as much time, like, troubleshooting this scenario as we did is more time than some actual parents spend thinking about this.
I freak out about that. I mean, we talk about daycare. But that's just, I hate how, because when people talk about the old times, well, I mean, back when we had a true middle class in our society, people had factory jobs before we outsourced them overseas. I mean, men could go to work and provide and have a nice middle class lifestyle, and their wife could stay home.
We did the math and about that, and I would, doing what I do, I'd have to get full-time hours at my union rate, which is tough. And so, but we could do it if, it's just, it's just hard. It's definitely way harder.
If you can't figure it out, I think it is best, in my advice, if one parent, and look, obviously, I think it seems more natural for the man to go out and the woman to stay home.
Well, no, Amanda would stay home.
Yeah, but I mean, in modern day time, whatever. I guess if you get a girl that makes more money, I'm trying to. I'm going with the new wave, guys. I'm not the caveman I used to be, right? So, if you have a woman, one parent stay home, I think that's best for the child.
I'm just waiting for the day when we see Mikey turn up and he's wearing one of those papoose things. He's all strapped up and he's producing around Mikey Jr. there,
Those things are nice, man. I used to have the little, what was it called?
It's like it looks like a big, like just one big giant cloth, right?
Yeah, well, I didn't ever use that one because that's like the kind of the hippies use that shit.
Okay. You're talking about like the Velcro. It's like a whole.
Yeah, no, I had like a backpack that I would sit all the kids in front of, and they would face away from me.
Yeah,
and that way they could sit there and just enjoy. Like we'd go up to I remember we were in Seattle one time going to the animals and rides and the fair. Yeah, at a county fair. Just, poop. I think it was Cage at that moment. Put him inside the fucking the onesie or whatever the fuck it's called and. Baby bidet, maybe? No.
Not bidet.
I think the baby bidet is a different
Yeah, that's a whole different
product.
I get hit in the head, guys. Come on. Yeah. More than I should. That fucking thingy.
Yeah, sure. Someone did a video where it was called Cool Dads with the Z, and there was two guys who were doing that, and then they started playing like flag football with the baby on, doing all this crazy stuff. It was I forget the comedian. I think it was Dimitri Martin.
Yeah,
he did something. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to figure out how I could put. I'm really gonna freak people out now.
Well, Jennifer was telling me that when you had Bella, that you'd give her a bottle and play video games at the same time? Like you had some kind of configuration where you held the controller?
Jen's a morning person and I'm a night person, So I typically, especially because at that time I also worked at the Rhino, so on my days off, I still was on a night schedule where I, stay up till 6 in the morning and go to sleep. So it worked out well because I stayed up when the kids would, get up. It'd be, I'm with them. And so, and she's useless after 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. She's done, where that's when I start to come alive. And so Bella would wake up. I'd go make her bottles and set them there. And at that time, I was at Skyrim. Morrowind, that was the game that I was big on. So I would be sitting there and I would be able to hold Bella, and then I would just put the bottle in the crook of my neck and pen it, so that way, she's not really, because at that time she was too young to really even hold the bottle at first. So I could just feed her and play, and then she'd fall asleep, and I'd have to remember, pull the bottle, and I'd have her in my arms the whole night, she would just sit there, and my hand movement and stuff, you don't get too crazy, the game, and so.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Tales from the Tour Bus, back to Billy Bob Thornton for a second. By the way, speaking of, I'll just tell you this real quick because we were talking about the kid thing. I wasn't expecting we were going to talk about that. But as non-kid friendly or whatever as the house is, it was pointed out to be by Jennifer this weekend that because Billy was just talking about his kids and stuff like that. And Billy has a daughter that's 14, and on the way home, Jennifer goes, Billy has a daughter who's 14, and he's 63. And I was like, yeah, that's true.
Does that line up for your age?
Close. Okay. I mean, he's by plus a few years. I'm not quite that old, but doing the, here's what it would be like if you had a kid at 50, essentially, kind of thing. Yeah, so she was at least contemplating that. I think that may come up again.
My uncle had his last kid at, I think, either 59 or 60.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
How'd that work out?
Men can do it.
He's a young 60-ish year old guy.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't get, but, they're doing okay.
I have thought about the fact that it would be good to have a kid around to take care of you in your old age, but the thing is, if they don't turn out right, then they may just beat you, like Mickey Rooney's kid did, like elderly abuse. Geez. I don't want that. Yeah. Hopefully I'll keep up maybe by then I'll be a black belt and I can defend myself. It might depends. Okay, Tales from the Tour Bus. Here's the story. So it's Mike Judge's new animated series. What it is, he did a season of each episode is these legendary stories about old country legends like George Jones, Waylon Jennings, Johnny Paycheck, these guys that were hard partiers. I would be interested to see if you were interested in this series, Frank, because you wouldn't even have to know or like any of the music just to hear some of these legendary stories. And he interviews people who were there for them, like witnesses and stuff like that to them. Like there's a famous story about George Jones I'd heard for years, but they actually did a whole episode around George Jones where during his drinking days, it was so out of hand that he was married to Tammy Wynette, the female country singer, and he'd gotten so loaded and he wanted to go to the liquor store. And, of course, they had a fleet of cars. She gathered up all the car keys and threw them into the bushes so he couldn't drive to the liquor store. So he gets on his John Deere riding lawnmower and drove down the highway to the liquor store. 5 miles an hour.
That didn't get too much attention. That was incognito.
Totally true story. Anyway, so I saw this series.
That's still a DUI, right?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, you can get a DUI on a golf cart. But we binged.
DUI on a horse?
Yeah, and that's another thing George did later on in a different.
I figured you'd know that being from Texas.
Yeah, for sure. In a different on a different day, George rode a horse to the bar because he couldn't drive. But I saw this show. We binge watched it at my house like in one sitting. It was fantastic. And you ever have those friends like your first thought is, I wonder if Frank's seen, like this is right up his alley. So I immediately, because I knew we were going to have Billy and the Boxmasters on the show, and I texted him, said, hey, are you guys watching this Tales from the Tour Bus? And it came back, oh, buddy. He's like, we just sat through, we binged it 2 nights ago. This is brilliant. So we ended up talking a lot about it because Billy knew a number of the subject like that. He knew George Jones. He knew a bunch of those guys. So we ended up talking. Anyway, I'm telling you all this because you're about to hear it on the interview. If you wonder what we're talking about, just try, Mike Judge, anything he touches is genius. So check out the show Tales from the Tour Bus and let us know what you think. All right, from just a couple of nights ago over the weekend, from Billy Bob Thornton's hotel suite at the Red Rock, right before they played a sold-out show, him and his band, the Boxmasters. This is my interview with our old buddies. Here it comes. We are phone booth fighting minus Frank Mir. I'll explain that here in a second. Joined by the Boxmasters at Red Rock Casino, where they're playing a sold-out show tonight. Our good friends, the Boxmasters, getting reunited. Teddy's here to my left, JD, and Bud, who, of course, looks a whole lot like Billy Bob Thornton, but he hears that quite a bit. It's good to see you guys again.
Good to see you, Richard.
How are you? Congratulations on a sold-out show.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the capacity is only 35. So if we didn't sell it out, that'd be pretty bad.
Yeah, that's true. But, it's exciting because, I was thinking about this today when we were getting ready to do the interview. I don't know how many of these we've done over the years, and I always appreciate you guys doing it with me. But, I remember the first time. In fact, I think the first time I interviewed you, Billy, was on the phone. It was a phoner, right. And you're promoting the Dallas show. And I was thinking, it's one thing when somebody who's known for acting wants to do an album or vice versa or whatever. And I knew you had a musical background, but here we are, God, is it 10 years later? I mean, I don't know how long it's been, but this is a full-time pursuit.
Wow, it's been... Well, the Boxmasters have been together 12 years.
Yeah.
And then I did 4 solo records before that. And then... And Teddy and I have been playing together almost 20 years.
Yep.
So it's...
I did play on private radio. That was the first one, private radio. I played on everything after that.
Yeah, that's right.
Played on everything after that.
There you go. Well, that's a bad sign.
Hey, professionals.
That's a bad sign when the guy that sings backup vocals later on tonight, you got to point him toward the microphone. That's all right. No, but...
Let me tell you something.
Yeah, I get that guy sometimes, the guy who likes to gesture.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
The Pope with that thing. Yeah. The Boxmasters playing a sold-out show here tonight in Las Vegas, as I said, behind a new record in stereo. Now, had a chance to listen to the record a number of times. You guys have done it again. Quality effort. The first thing that comes to mind when I heard it was big harmonies. A really full vocal sound on this record, and a lot of tracks too. What was it?
19 songs.
Yeah, 19 songs. Very nice. Let's talk about that record because it's out. It's available now. First of all, I love the title, In Stereo. To a lot of people, they would think, well, that's something that's been around for a while. But the Boxmasters are purists. They're hesitant to embrace new technology, has been my
That's true.
experience with you, right? I mean, it was only a couple of records ago you guys quit putting out 78s, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, the whole idea behind the stereo is we wanted to have an album cover that reflected those days in the 60s, and they would always have these 60s versions. There were drawings of girls on the beach or whatever, And so we have 2 girls on the cover facing away, both holding a gift box, which was Ted's idea. And
what's in the box, Ted?
Well, no,
Masters.
The box was the same color as our logo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, have the box be the same color.
Holding us, yeah.
And so the In Stereo, reference with the 2 girls. And so the reason we wanted to call it In Stereo is because, since it is based so much on our influences from the 60s, in the 60s when you bought an album, it always had a little oval little thing up in the corner that would say In Stereo when stereo was newer, And it was kind of like, it was like bragging. It's like when you get a box of cereal and it says new improved whatever.
It's like the motel
cornflakes.
It's like
right.
It's like the motel that still advertises color TV.
Oh yeah, color TV, right? Exactly. Color TV, free ice.
Yeah.
And so, and that's the idea behind it is really just instead of just having the little logo thing up there that says in stereo.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and call the album in stereo.
Yeah.
And that's the idea behind it. And then on the back, it's got our silhouettes, and that kind of thing. So it's a very 60s looking cover, and the music goes from kind of our influences from like the early 70s, and the record starts out there as opposed to writing songs that and putting them in an order that would go from, say, 65 to 73. We started in 73.
Yeah.
And by the end of the record, you're in stuff that's more influenced by 65, 66, 67.
Yeah, that's real clear. And that seems like with the last couple of records, you guys have done a direction that you've been moving toward. Obviously, it's further in that direction. Is that by design, or has that just been where the writing's been headed?
No, we definitely, we did the one previously was called T-Surfing, and so this, up until we came up with the in stereo title, we just called T-Surfing 2. We always intended that it was the follow-up, companion to that record. So, we didn't really intend on getting this record together so quickly. I am a professional recording engineer, so. But
They're just confused as to why I'm not recording this on reel to reel. They're looking at me like I'm an alien over here with this contraption.
But no, we did another record that we intended on putting out for this tour, and we were intending on putting it out with a label, and they all told us, everybody that we met with, that they couldn't get the record out in time, and do enough promotion for it. So we went, well, all right, we'll just do another 19-song record and get it out for the tour, and we'll just sell that on the road and promote that. So whoever puts out the next record will have plenty of time to do all their homework for it.
Well, and you know what? I think for as much as we all love musical nostalgia, that is one of the nice things about the current age we're in, is because you can do that. You can put it out yourself, and you want to put 19 songs on there, you can do that. You don't have to back time it and try to figure out if everything's going to fit on there or not. So I guess that is an upside for sure.
That's one of the lesser numbered records. We did like 22 before that.
Yeah.
T-Surfing had
That's
a lot of songs.
Yeah. So we always make the joke that percentage-wise, you should be able to find a couple on there you like.
Yeah, that's true.
One of the songs I really like on this new record is called "Never Want to Leave California," and I like it for a couple of reasons. It's obviously an homage to the Golden State. It lists the pros and cons of living in California and being a Californian. And the first thing I noticed about it was the sort of the musical dichotomy in it, where when you're listing the negatives, it's a little more slower, it's a little more, and then it kicks in to more of an upbeat thing when you start listing the pros, right?
Absolutely. And then toward the end, we've got this outro that has.
Yes.
So our assistant over at A&M, Tate, we have him listing off some of the more interesting trivia about the state of California.
Yeah, that was funny. And then he mispronounces
Pomona.
Pomona, that's right.
He goes,
and he did that for real. He did that. That was
something he actually did, and then we just went, well, that's how we have to end the song because it was real. It's like he didn't screw it up, on purpose.
I like the fact, too, in the song that when you're listing all the pros and the cons, in the pros column is the Hells Angels.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah, Hells Angels and Beach Boys.
Right. Yeah. Now, you guys also have a track on there, Japanese Girl, that you've been performing live for a while. So that song's been around for quite a while, yeah?
We recorded that song in probably 2010 or so.
Probably before that. It was probably 2009 that we had it on a record that,
some of the older stuff, we've kind of cannibalized for parts here and there.
Right.
And it just felt like it fit this record, and it's been part of our live show for years. And so, people have asked where they can get that song, and a few others. So we just tried to make sure we kind of put a few of those kind of things in this record while we had a chance.
There's a live track on there too. Speaking of playing, songs that you've been playing live for a long time, Emily, which is the last track on there, it's cool to hear that live track on there because it really does give a good, accurate representation of what a live Boxmaster show is like, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the song that we start our shows with, and we have for years and years. Mm-hmm. And on the record, it's the last song because, I think when you're sequencing a record, you've only got one live song. You don't want to, it would kind of interrupt the flow if you have a live song in the middle somewhere or a first. It's
sonically it's a lot different.
Yeah, it's a lot different. So put it at the end. It almost feels like a bonus track at the end like that, So, but that's a song that my brother actually wrote, my brother Jimmy, and years and years and years ago. And we've always started the show with that. And
we've been starting that since the solo days.
Yeah, we did.
20 years.
Yeah.
When we used to tour for the Billy Bob Thornton band.
Yeah.
That was the opening number.
It was a pure live track too, except that I detected that you might have enhanced the pyrotechnics on it. I couldn't really tell on that. We
do have a lot of explosions in our show, and it's hard to mic explosions because it really overloads the microphones.
They're not the ones that we bring on the truck.
Right.
If they're happening, something's going wrong.
Have you guys?
I saw something really funny. I just have to point out. This is amazing. We use microphones like every day of our lives. It's our business, right?
Right.
I'm just watching Teddy. When Teddy talks, he's got the microphone right here. And then when he stops talking, he goes like this.
He used to do that. Do you remember the old? Have you ever watched Letterman when he had Larry Bud Melman?
Oh, of course.
And he would interview people, and he would say, "JD, you've got a show out tonight."
right, I know. Oh, he did it all the time.
Yeah, very funny. So, the new album in stereo. I'm sure you guys will be playing a lot of that tonight. How many more dates on the tour? I mean, we are syndicated, so there are people who are hearing this outside of the Las Vegas area that may still have an opportunity to go to theboxmasters.com and check on tour dates. You guys are actually just starting, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is we got another 40 or so shows left on this tour.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all over the place. We started in Napa, California, in Yountville, and then we played Bremerton, Washington, Salem, Oregon, and tonight in Vegas is the fourth show. And then we go back to L.A., San Diego, Tucson, going over to Roswell, New Mexico, which is interesting. And then we go down for 5 shows in Texas. We're doing a bunch down there at places that I'm sure you've haunted many times.
Many times. That's where I first sampled the Boxmasters a number of times there. Yeah, when I was still in Texas. Well, speaking of being everywhere, as the song says, JD texted me from Winnemucca. Yesterday.
That's right.
He's something about carrying his pack down a dusty road in Winnemucca. And I said, "What are you doing out there?" He said, "Well, we're parked here, and supposedly there's a lot of brothels around here, but I looked it up on Yelp, and they're not coming up." And I said, "Well, you can come to my brothel if you." I don't know if you know this, and I don't know if we were talking about an interview, but I do PR for a couple of the brothels outside of Las Vegas.
Right. Well, JD told me I didn't know.
Yeah, that's my quote-unquote legitimate job, right? So I said, "Yeah, you want to come out to my place? I'll show you around." In fact, it was at one of our places a couple of years ago that I found Lamar Odom overdosing. You remember that story?
I sure do.
Yeah, that was me.
You found him?
I did.
Wow.
You listen to that 911
That's
call.
amazing.
If you listen to that 911 call, you'll recognize that voice.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Other than calling 911, what does doing PR for a adult entertainment facility like that
not to make this all about me.
You're way more interesting than us.
What I do, the best way that I describe my job to that aspect of what I do is it's like creative writing. So what I do is I create these stunts to create publicity for the brothel. So 9 a.m. I take a look at what the day's headlines are, and by 5 p.m. I figured out a way to shoehorn the brothel's name somehow into the narrative to get it some press. But sometimes the press comes to you, and that was one wild Tuesday afternoon when all of a sudden a girl wearing high heels and nothing else came running into the office screaming because Lamar Odom was having a stroke. And I ran back there, and he was on his back, and I jumped up on the bed, and I kicked him over to his side, and when I did, he just expelled everywhere, like all kinds of horrible stuff came out. Goodness. And, he's a giant. He's like 300 pounds, and because he's almost 7 feet tall. And I had to sort of sit on him and balance him on his side so he didn't roll back over on his back, and get on the phone with 911 and then wait until the paramedics got there and everything.
Wow. You knew exactly what to do, man. I mean, that's something.
Well,
I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have known to turn someone on his side.
Yeah. Hey, listen, if you're going to be in a rock band, I'm a handy guy to have around with that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. I had no idea that was, because I remember that was a big story.
Yeah.
And all that. That's why I don't go to brothels.
Yeah, I just Kirk, our guitar player, he went and found a sign that was like a hand painted, plywood sign that said brothels on it. So he took a picture with that. But supposedly the main ones closed down because the owner passed away, and the wife didn't want to open them back up or something, and so there's not as much action up there in Winnemucca as there used to be.
Well, next time you're through, come on out to my place, because I told the girls when JD sent me that text, I said, hey, I got a buddy that's coming down maybe from Winnemucca, a couple of friends, and they were going to look their best. And then got the bad news that you guys had to head straight to Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'll tell you one thing I do. I'll tie this back to the music we all love in a special way. Is the girls like karaoke there, and so we have a karaoke machine, and then I was also at somebody brought an acoustic guitar in, so I took it upon myself to start strumming the Son of Hickory Holler's Tramp for all of them.
Wow!
And I don't know how many of them got it, but that song to me, and it's just really an opportunity for me to reference that song, but that song to me is one of my most favorite country songs. I would say that's underrated. It's not in that, he stopped loving her today status everybody talks about. Anybody got a song like that comes to the top of your mind that it's just, it's one of your go-tos, but, for some reason it just never, it doesn't get in that all-time conversation.
Now, you mean country song or just any song?
Yeah, give me any song. That's fine. Give me any song.
Well, I mean, there's so many like that are not the song from an album. But, I always liked Light Up or Leave Me Alone by Traffic.
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty much.
Blank. I can't even.
Well, no, I know it's funny because I'll think of 30 the second you leave the room. But
tell me later.
Drive and Wheel by Poco.
I mean,
I always just thought that song was great.
Yeah.
But that's not really what you think of when you think of Poco. As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't even think of Poco.
Yeah.
Exactly. So everybody's going, Poco? Who the hell's Poco?
Yeah. Do you know years ago, back when I was still in the band, we played at Summerfest in Milwaukee, and Poco was on the bill. And Poco rolls up in this brand new, beautiful tour bus. And we all looked at each other like, man, Poco must be doing pretty well these days. What's going on? And you looked closer, and on the inside, it had the MC Hammer logo stitched all over the place, and he had just gone bankrupt. So there was that fire sale on all of his stuff, and I guess a lot of people benefited. Speaking of tales from the tour bus, all right. Now we got to get into a little bit of this because let me tell you, I like it that we're friends like this, because when I see something like Tales from the Tour Bus, I swear to you, my first thought, Jennifer, my girlfriend, will verify this. As soon as I saw this, I said, I wonder if the Boxmasters have seen this. I have to find out. And I texted JD, and he goes, "Oh my God, we watched them all 2 nights ago. Greatest thing ever."
It's become a religion.
Yeah.
You know, and now
because he had seen them.
Paycheck one again. Let's watch the George Jones one again.
Mike, if you don't know, Mike Judge, Beavis and Butthead, King of the Hill, he has got a new animated 8-episode season series called Tales from the Tour Bus. It's airing on Cinemax, but you can get them on iTunes and all the rest of that. It's genius. It's him narrating legendary tales of old country guys, George Jones, Waylon Jennings, Johnny Paycheck, and a lot of the people who were around him at the time verifying some of these old legendary stories. It's animated. It's funny. It's brilliant. I mean, tell me your take on it.
I got to tell you, I started watching it a couple of months ago, I guess. And I watched it with my wife, who's raised in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And has never seen any people like this in her lifetime. I'm the closest as she's gotten.
Yeah.
And so she was fascinated by it. And she said, "My God, these people are crazy." I said, "Oh, you haven't seen half of it. You have no idea." And then they did one on Blaise Foley, who was one of the lesser-known guys, you know, who is from my hometown. He's from Malvern, Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, moved to Texas.
Right,
you know,
right. It was based in Austin, but from there originally. Okay.
But from my town. And there aren't a lot of famous folks from my town. Of course, Blaise never got to be real famous, but it's funny because all the episodes are so hilarious because of the craziness that went on.
Yeah.
The episode about Blaise is really poignant.
Yeah.
And kind of sad toward the end of it, you know. So I thought that was a great thing for the series, that not everything is just sort of like, let's have fun talking about how nuts these guys were. It's all of a sudden, here's one who was nuts, but nuts.
Yeah, nuts,
You know what I
nuts
mean?
and tragic, because with the, when, success is such a cure-all for a lot of things, and not ultimately if it does you in, but, some of those guys had so much success that it was easier to laugh at the stories because, they were afforded a nice life that came along with it. There were so many things that came to my mind when I was, first of all, like the George Jones lawnmower story where he drove the lawnmower to the liquor store. Now, I'd heard that story for years. In fact, Billy, you told me that George had told you that was a true story.
Yes.
Yeah. And you were the only person up until this series that had ever actually verified that for me, because some of these can be tall tales, but it was the story when Tammy didn't want him to drive to the liquor store and she hid all the car keys and he drove the John Deere lawnmower. But that series, though, the accents that it puts on it, like when they're talking to the Addams brothers and all those guys, and somebody points out he didn't even take the blade off of the John Deere mower, so it's kicking
rocks
off.
are going everywhere.
Yeah,
It was something else. I mean, one of my favorite things about George, and I knew him, and I'm trying to think if I don't know any of those guys that they did one on.
Yeah.
I think I knew all of them except Blaise Foley, who was the one from my hometown. But they're pretty amazing cats, every one of them in their own way. And but they were the thing about George that really impressed me about the episode about him, and this is something that I never saw him do, but had heard the stories, was when he had the split personality.
Oh, yeah.
And he the duck.
Yeah, he was the duck, and he was the old man.
Right.
And the old man got pissed off at the duck and kicked him off the bus, but then started feeling bad about it because that was his best friend. The duck was the old man's best friend, so he made the bus turn around and go pick the duck back up. Right. And of course, they were all him. It was. I loved that.
And by the way, sometimes they were letting that guy drive. That was the other thing too.
Sure.
Is some of these arguments and shootings and stuff like that were happening behind the wheel at 70 miles an hour. That was, and this is and the genius of Mike Judge. And if you knew him, I knew him when I was a kid because He's from Dallas, and he was a bass player in a blues band called Anson and the Rockets. And that's how I knew him originally. And then he started with Beavis and Butthead. And I remember hearing about Beavis and Butthead because he was like, oh, yeah, I sold this little show to MTV. You know, maybe it'll turn into something. And then he takes off from there. But if you watch Beavis and Butthead, my favorite part of those cartoons was when they would watch the videos, because you could tell he had a really good base of music knowledge to be able to make some of those jokes. And now he's able to do some of it in the country vein. And so, you know, he doesn't get in the way of the story, but I was telling JD on text the other day that I love the lines like where he's about halfway through the series. I think it was a Billy Joe Shaver episode where he said, you know, our next artist is a legendary country songwriter who sold, you know, responsible for millions of records and, like a lot of other guys on this show so far, shot a guy.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, see, the great thing about having Mike, him making himself the host, is this stuff wouldn't be as effective if you got like a, you know, razzmatazz guy to be the host. The fact that Mike is so deadpan is what makes it fun. When he says, and then Billy Joe shot a guy in the face, you know, it's almost like listening to Hank Hill narrate it, which makes it even funnier, you know, and Mike's just perfectly still there. I mean, and the idea also that he had to animate it, you know, with real people. I don't know how they do that. I know that there's a process by where they just film it as like filming us, but then they do something where we look animated. And I think that was genius, you know. But anybody who hasn't seen it has got to watch that.
Yeah, it was genius. And then the you were telling me before we got started, you ran sound for Johnny Paycheck a little bit.
Years ago, when I worked with for a couple of different sound companies, and the smaller sound company I worked for did a couple of shows with Johnny Paycheck. Yeah, and he was. The good news was when we worked with him, he didn't fire a weapon at us. He actually liked us, and he was very, very nice to me. He was hopped up, you know. He was really higher than a kite when we worked with him, and very talkative, and you know, he wasn't a big guy; he was a little guy, and he was just a mile a minute, and you know, I was just some kid that he didn't have to talk to, but he did, and he was very, very nice to me. So I wasn't privy to any of the, you know, shootouts or any of that stuff, but he was great. I actually liked him, and he was kind of funny, you know. I thought. One of the things I loved on Mike's show on the Johnny Paycheck episode
I know what you're going to say.
Was when everybody would say when he was said and had an uncanny resemblance to Charles Manson, you know, which was amazing.
He really did, though.
There's no doubt about it.
I mean, he really did.
No.
You know, Johnny Paycheck factors into a weird childhood memory of mine because my grandpa growing up, I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house, and my grandpa ran a liquor store. And at Saturday nights, he would close the store, and he'd come in. It was always like 9 o'clock, you know, 10 o'clock by the time he gets home. I was a little kid, so I get to stay up late to see my grandpa and everything. And he came in one night, and I remember it because it was the first time I had ever really heard him cuss. And he came in, and he was mad because he was shorthanded all day because one of the cashiers at the liquor store the night before had gone out to Billy Bob's Texas and run off with Johnny Paycheck. And she just got on the tour bus and went to wherever the next stop was, and no call, no showed for work. And I remember him coming in, and I remember him saying, you know, I'm here in the kitchen, and he's raising a ruckus, and I just hear goddamn Johnny Paycheck. And I remember my grandmother being mad because he had taken the Lord's name in vain, and I didn't even know what that was about. But
that's hilarious.
I'm sure that happened a number of times with
no
with
doubt.
Johnny. So, hey, let me ask you real quick too before we wrap up about Goliath, because that's in its second season on Amazon, which is a great show. If you got Amazon Prime, you can watch that. And I liked it from the get-go because I'm interested in any lawyer that offices out of a motel.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's you.
Yeah. It's, you know, I think I might even like motels for offices better than just some corporate building.
Yeah.
If I were to be a lawyer, I might. if you could get any work, you know, I mean, but that's the character's not really far from me, to tell you the truth. I'm just kind of playing myself in it, really. If I were a lawyer in L.A., I'd probably be about like that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just was overhearing a conversation when we were getting everything set up, but total agreement with this because everybody is gravitating so much towards binge watching things and having them available on demand, and that does seem to be a really nice component of again what modern technology affords us, that you can just put a whole set. Well, I mean, we just got done talking about it. Tales from the Tour Bus. You can sit up all night and watch them.
We did,
no doubt.
Yeah, and I also think too, watching those, it's a way to be able to invest a little more in a character or a storyline, because after I've spent 8 hours with you or whatever that period of time is, kind of a crash course, then sometimes it sticks with you more, I think.
I totally agree, because if you're watching, say, like a network show that comes on Sunday night or whatever it is, and you don't see it again until the next Sunday, and they have to do that stupid sort of last week on Hanson or whatever the show is, you know. It's like they recap a thing or two, and or you have to kind of remember what it was before. And I think it's like anything. It kind of takes the wind out of its sails a little bit by waiting, and this way you're watching, you know, however you watch it. If you watch 3 episodes at a time or half of it or the whole thing, it's more like you're watching a movie.
Yeah.
And that's really what they're doing on Amazon and places like that now, HBO, whatever it is they're making, you know, 8-hour independent films. And it's because the independent film business is almost non-existent now.
Yeah.
So that's where it is now. It's on those places.
You know, I guess we like going back and forth because I love that, and at the same time, speaking of motels, we'd stayed in this kind of boutique motel in L.A. a couple of months ago, and they had this television. It was this totally retro television channel called MeTV.
Oh yeah,
and
I've got Me TV.
Oh, you guys have it.
Yeah, we watch it.
Yeah, and it airs like all these you know, old movies, old TV dramas, sitcoms, whatever. And we had it on the hotel for a couple of nights straight, and we found out it's here in Las Vegas. I went out and bought rabbit ears because I couldn't get it otherwise.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's how I watch it with the rabbit ear.
Yeah, so
That's fantastic.
4.2.
Yeah, so we got our Amazon Fire Stick and everything for the, you know, for Goliath and that kind of stuff, and then we flip over to the rabbit ears whenever MeTV comes on.
You know,
That's so cool.
There's another station called Cozy TV.
Oh yeah, I've seen that too. Yeah.
Same thing, but Cozy TV.
Cozy
TV.
I was trying to help him out.
Cozy TV runs bad sci-fi movies.
Oh yeah,
the crappy ones.
it's okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
the really crappy
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
You know,
You can actually take your pants off on
You
this
can't
thing.
stop watching them.
Yeah.
You can't stop. They're horrible. You go, why did I just spend an hour and a half watching that? But you don't never turn away.
Well, you can't. And Ted and I especially on the
He'll
bus.
call me. I go, dude, you gotta see that. You gotta watch what I'm watching. He
I
goes,
know.
I don't have that on my TV. That channel.
Well, my daughter, who's 13, who'll be 14 in September, she's now getting into things where she'll take some of my suggestions every now and then about what to watch.
Oh yeah,
Used to be anything adult, I'm not watching it.
yeah.
Now, I kind of snuck up on her with it a little bit, just kind of telling her about this character from a movie that she thought was hilarious, because she thinks the old movies and their effects are just ridiculous. So she gets a charge out of it and she laughs at it.
Yeah.
But of course, for her, an old one could be 1995.
Yeah, yeah.
But one way or the other, I finally showed her, and my son, Willie, who's 25, he came over because he works in special effects. So that's his world, you know. And Willie and I sat there and showed Bella Robot Monster. Now, have you ever seen Robot Monster?
Yes, I think so.
It's amazing. And she was intrigued when I said, look, they didn't have any money to make this thing. And they shot it up in Bronson Canyon there. And I said, just so you know, the monster is a guy in a gorilla suit with a deep-sea diver helmet on. And that was what they decided to make the monster.
Yeah.
Well, she decided, okay, I got to see that.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of movie you'll see on the thing there.
Yeah.
So now, once I showed her Robot Monster, she's very open
Yes.
to seeing that because she thought it was the funniest thing she'd ever seen in her lifetime.
Isn't it funny? It took something that old and that low budget and that obscure to bring him into that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
she
that's
totally gets it now.
Yeah, you never know what your entree is going to be to the world of yesteryear. Maybe it's the Boxmasters. Maybe it's the new record in stereo. As I put a bow on this thing.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah,
Nice job, Richard.
Thank you very much. So anyway, so just to wrap up, you're going to finish up the tour, and then plans beyond that. I mean, you really win because you can continue to do the series and the acting and all that kind of stuff. But man, it is so cool that I'm sure you've thought this many times yourself that this is awesome that you can go out, you can do the band, your first love, and you've got a day job, I guess, that kind of affords you the ability and all that kind of stuff. But it's just so cool to see that this thing has had the life and the longevity that it has, the Boxmasters, and now really kind of a legacy to it, Mm-hmm. So what'll be the plan for 2019, or is it too early to talk about that?
Well, we usually tour. We'll tour once or twice a year, and there's some talk of a spring tour, so maybe going out a little sooner. And
releasing that other record called Spec.
Yeah, the other record called Spec. We'll release that, and
that's
we'll go
like
back
an homage to Richard Speck. Is that
no?
This is like Richard Speck the musical.
Yeah, not quite that creepy.
Okay,
but it's. No, actually, the title Spec came from there's a title song on it called Spec, which essentially is talking about how we're all just specks of dust in the universe, and in the meantime, you got your little problems in the backyard that are maybe huge to you, and then you got the bigger global issues and stuff like that. It's really about that. It's a little bit more of a, I guess you'd say a more socio-political record in some ways, even though it's got a couple of personal songs on it. And that'll come out next year. We'll do another tour, and then probably go back in the studio again and start on another one because we can't quit recording. It's in our blood. We can't stop it. And
we talked about maybe doing a live record. At this point, there's so many Boxmaster records, and maybe it's time for the massive live record.
Yeah. Yeah, with the gatefold, the Peter Frampton style, Boxmasters Come Alive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
125 song live record.
We're gonna have to learn some more songs.
Very nice. All right,
4-hour set.
Well, we appreciate the time as always, and Frank will come to the show tonight. He wanted to get in here. But the problem was where I said this at the beginning of the show. I didn't explain it. Frank and I are both training for fights at this point because I've been talked into doing a cage fight in December. But so this may be the last time you see me when I got all my faculties about me.
Those cages, right?
Oh, trust me, I do. That's why I'm so hesitant about it. But Frank's training later than I am, so he was coming straight over from that. But we'll see him at the show.
I've got to ask Frank. Well, you probably know this now that you're training for it. Do you guys wear a cup?
Oh yes. Okay. In fact, here let me tee you up for this. Get Frank tonight to tell you the story of when he was fighting in a UFC main event, and one of his testicles came outside the cup. So he's got one on the outside, one on the inside, and he's got a heavyweight Russian on top of him that's trying to beat him unconscious, and he suddenly realizes he's got one testicle off the reservation. And what happened?
Oh, did he hit him in it?
Well, you have to ask. I'm going to tease for later on tonight.
That's painful.
Hopefully the Russian didn't know.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'll get him to tell you the story tonight. It's a good one because it is very interesting, like the behind the scenes stuff of the practicalities you have to worry about. I will tell you this though, Billy, with the cup is like a boob job. You get what you pay for. You know what I mean? You can save a little money on the front end of the boob job, but you're going to realize it later on. So I always tell people the cup, do not skimp on the investment there. Invest in a good quality cup.
So don't get the
Don't go to Walmart and get a cup.
Yeah, exactly. Or
Yeah.
remember in the old catalogs when you ordered stuff at Christmas, and it would have like a guitar amp, like a Silvertone or whatever.
Yep.
and it would have the cheapest one and the middle one and the more expensive one. It said good, better, best.
Yeah.
It's like, don't go for the good.
Good was never
Get
good.
the best.
No, that's right. That's right. All right, go to theboxmasters.com for more information. Follow the Boxmasters on Instagram. Whoever's running Instagram, nice job, by the way. Liking what I'm seeing there. There's fun videos from the road. I saw one from the truck stop today. You seem to be alluding to brewing up some meth in the back of the bus. It's also Sudafed.
Oh,
like
people
that.
jump to conclusions.
Oh, is that what happened?
People just jump to conclusions. No, I was just saying that, that cold medication is a good product.
All right. Very nice. Billy, JD, Teddy, the Boxmasters, rocking the Red Rock Casino tonight. Always fun to have you guys. Look forward to doing it again next time.
Cool, man.
Thanks,
Good to see
Richard.
you, buddy.
Always a pleasure to catch up with Billy Bob Thornton and JD and Teddy from the Boxmasters. They got a new album out called In Stereo. Check that out. They sounded as good as I think they've ever sounded Friday night when I saw them at Red Rock. Crowd was into it, sold out show, and it's always a pleasure to see them out there doing it. So thanks as always to those guys for the time. And next time, Frankie, everybody asked about you. Next time you got to make it, because I want you to be in for one of those late night campfire sessions. Even though there's no campfire, you will enjoy it.
No, hopefully, I'll just plan better ahead of time. Make sure a good nap.
That's right.
Don't sit out in fucking 100-degree weather.
Yeah, that's right. Or at least we'll bring along a jumbo umbrella for you.
And I have
something.
all that stuff. I'm just an idiot. In my brain, 8 to 10, I'm like, it'll start getting hot about 9:30, 9:45. I'll be okay. Fucking 8:30, I'm fucking dying.
No, it is crazy. I mean, we just a couple of weeks ago, we had our annual 4th of July parade through our neighborhood. They started it at 9 a.m. by necessity, but it was an hour long, and at 9:30, it's sweltering.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to complain more, but the boys were out there.
Right, full gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it was just t-shirt, shorts, and cleats. So that was good.
Oh, wait, you said, was it flag football?
No, it's regular football, but it was just their first practices.
Oh, okay,
so the
gotcha.
first couple
Yeah.
is just like
Yeah.
it's just helmet and cleats is what they say. But this one, they didn't even have to wear helmets. There's a lot of conditioning, which I got to show you video. I was actually very proud of my two boys.
Okay.
I have a moment, I'll brag about them.
Okay.
Look, genetically, Cage and my children are stronger and faster than the average person.
Yeah.
I'm stronger and faster than the average person. It's passed on, you know what I mean? But so that's not something you could really be proud of per se, because you didn't really earn it. You know what I mean? You were just like, that's birthright. You know what I mean? Sometimes there's certain Olympic events where it's impressive you work hard, but let's face it, you were born with that ability and you just cultivated it a little bit more, but there's certain things that are not birthrights. And they were at one point at the end towards the middle of practice, because of infractions of not clapping or this, they punished the whole team. And it was the 10U, the 12U, and the 14U all practiced together. So as they're calling things out, they keep giving them like demerits. Basically, all right, that's 5 up downs. Now that's 10 up downs. So before it was all said and done, after their warm up, they had to do 60 up downs, right? Where you jog in place, they blow the whistle, you drop down to your chest, and you bounce right back up. Well,
Like a sprawl.
right, you sprawl, but you sprawl with your chest all the way to the mat, instead of, just throwing your hips down, which you would do. So you all the way down, you bounce right back up. And you're not supposed to put your knees down. You don't get up to a knee and stand up. Well, I'll show you the video when we're done. I had to videotape it because my two boys never once put their knees down and were always one of the first up every time. And Cage is not a small kid. He's one of the bigger kids on the team. There was kids half his size who were just sitting there. There was one kid, I even had to point him out. I was like, look at this dude. He was just sitting there like almost like crying and just his dance or his shuffle looked more like a dance, like he had to go pee. Like it wasn't like he wasn't really chopping his feet. It was sad. Like even the other coaches were up to him, just kind of screaming at him, "Come on, that's not an up!" Trying to get him to do the proper up down. He'd fall down. It was like, okay, put his hands on his hips, get down in a push-up position, then drop to his knees, then put his chest down with his butt up in the air, then came back up to his hands and knees, and then stood up. And by the time he got up, they were already blowing the whistle for the kids to bounce down on the next one. But my two boys, and I told them afterwards, like, hey, because they were like, hey, Dad, you see me catch the ball? Did you see me do this? You see me finish first in this race? I'm like, hey, all that was impressive, you know what I mean? But I'm most impressed with the up downs, because that was mental fortitude. To sit there in that heat, I'm dying and I'm sitting in a chair just complaining because I don't have shade, and they're up there doing 60 up downs, and towards the end, like I said, I took 2 15-second clips so after I could show them, like, that's, out of everything you did today, that made me the most proud. Like I got to swell up a little bit with pride going, look at their mental toughness. They, they sit there and push through, and no one's giving them extra credit for it. They're not getting paid for it. They did it because they had that in them to, no, I'm gonna take pride in this.
At any point during that, did Ronan moonwalk on the field? Because I know that was a point of contention last year, right? At the baseball game.
Moonwalking.
Was he doing some sort of dance this when you turned your chair around? Remember this?
Okay, that was actually I think 2 seasons ago when I was still playing baseball, and they had some kind of sprint where they had to sprint from home to first base, right? And so Ronan, who's actually very fast, he's the tallest, one of the tallest kids in his class, and he has good speed. Now, he's not thick right now. He hasn't gained that thickness that Cage and Bella have. When you look at their shoulders and Cage and Bella, they look like they're, Cage, he's 12, he looks like a 15-year-old. I mean? Like, he takes his shirt off, everybody's like, holy shit, Whereas Ronan is ripped, he has a six-pack, but he's thin. I think right now he weighs 60 pounds. Cage weighs 150, and so they're doing the sprints, and Ronan's like doing something weird with his hands, like running like a robot, or then he like ran like an animation character. He's watching too many fucking cartoons where both hands are behind him, and I'm looking at him like, what are you doing? Pump your hands. And so finally, because that's what happened. He started running like an animation character with both hands. You can only see this if you're watching live on YouTube.
Yes.
If you watch some animations like Japanese manga or whatever, some of the characters, the ninjas, will run with their hands, both hands behind their back, like they're like dangling behind them like a cape, and they lean forward and they sprint. And I don't know what guy wrote that makes them faster, but that's the stylistic sprint that they have. So he's mimicking this. Well, obviously that only works in cartoons. It doesn't work very good in real life because you need to use opposite forces. Your arms pumping is part of you moving your legs, So I'm like, Ronan, pump your arms. And then all of a sudden he comes out on his next sprint. It's like a real deliberate robotic, like now he's fucking trolling me, It got so bad, and I'm sitting there and I'm so frustrated with him now that he's not, like, he's screwing with me, Then I'm like, all right, cool. I know, you know what? Because I was getting angry, and I almost started turning to that parent where everybody's looking at me, and I'm like, so I'm like, I know how to get you. All right, you want to fuck with me? I'll fuck with you, kid. Hey, you know what? I've been doing this longer than you have. I know how to get even. All right, you want to do that? No problem. So I grabbed my chair and I turned my chair completely around. So all the other parents are watching the field, and I'm watching out. I'm watching fucking birds and butterflies. I'm like, I'm not going to watch. When you want to do things properly, I'll pay attention. Even if you're bad at it, if you're giving me effort, I'll pay attention. If you're going to screw around, that's fine. I'm not going to be here to watch you screw around. You know what I mean? Like, I'll go ahead and watch. I wish I would have put my instead of looking down at my phone or something. I just, I made it very obvious that So when he looked over at me, I'm not watching now.
You wish you had a paper, like a big paper, to just like.
Yeah, if I could have done that, cross my leg and put it up. So that was my way of like, okay, two can play this game. I'm not going to get angry with you because you're not going to beat me. You're 6 years old.
Meanwhile, somebody that shows up late to watch the game sees Frank with his chair turned around, just staring off into space, and goes, oh my gosh, he has been hit in the head too many times. Like,
no, and actually, I had to jump Jennifer's ass a little bit because she's sitting there going, "You're embarrassing me." I'm like, I'm parenting my child. Let me, there's a game going on here right now. He and I are playing, and this is a game of strategy. This is mental warfare between me and my son. We're playing a game right now. You know what I mean? Like. So she's like, well, it's embarrassing other people around me. I'm like, well, if the other people here want to address how they deal with mental and strength, we could talk about their accomplishments in life. We'll talk about my accomplishments. Like, and I'm being loud. I'm getting angry. Like, so if you want to come up here and tell me why you think that you do things better than I do, and show me what you make and what you do and what you've done. Well, you fucking made the high school football team. Bravo, motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like, I had a very uncool moment.
Yeah. I tell you what, if I had been doing that against you, though, if I'd been running, I could have outlasted you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have, because the thing is, now I would have been sucking at the up downs, 100%. There's no question about that. I would have been sucking at the up downs. But I know exactly what you're talking about, because as soon as I would have seen that we were locked into a game of wait and see, yeah, I'd have waited you out.
Yeah. And Ronan's good at that. And now, because I've beat him at his game, he doesn't test me as much now.
Right.
Because I know because he's a good troller.
Yeah.
That expression, being a troll, that's fucking Ronan to a T.
Yeah.
he trolls his mom all the time to the point where I have to step in and go, he's fucking with you. You know what I mean? Like, he's got you. Like, you realize that now he's 9. The 9-year-old's got you. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, he's doing A, B, and C. I have to look at and then you just see Ronan just laugh. He does it to his brother and sister, and to the point where they beat his ass. So I just kind of look at him. I'm like, because Jennifer's like, you can't let him fight. I'm like, no, kids fighting each other is part of growing up. You know what I mean? Like, lions have to sharpen their claws. They're first, on each other.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I look at Ronan and I'm like, I don't know if I admire you sometimes, or I'm just like, really? Because again, Ronan weighs about 60 pounds, and here you got Cage who's 100. It looks like that scene out of the Avengers where, the Hulk's standing there and Thor or something, and the Hulk just fucking slant. There's times when Ronan finally gets Cage, fucks with him enough that Cage is like, all right, well, I'm bigger and stronger than you. I'm going to fucking show you, and throws him down, and, and Ronan gets up crying. And then, what also, too, is gangster about Roro? The fucker will not rat on his brother or sister. Like, he'll come in and I'll see like his fucking eyes swelling up.
Yeah.
I'm like, what happened? Nothing. I'm like, nothing happened? And then Cage is like, well, no, he didn't hit me. I mean, like, seriously, like, I could be like, here's video footage of your brother hitting you. Did he hit you? No. He just beat your ass. You're not going to fucking rat on him? No. And I don't say nothing. I'm just like, wow, that's fucking impressive. You know what I mean? Like,
I remember when I came over, because I think I was over at the house the night this happened, or right after it happened, or something like that. And I was telling Frank, and Jennifer was the one that's telling me the whole story. And
the sprinting story?
That whole story you just told about, turning the chair around. And I was like, yeah. I go, when Ronan's accepting the Academy Award for Best Actor, you're going to be sitting there in your chair, and in his acceptance speech, he's going to be like, try to turn the chair around now, Dad.
Touche.
And who am I kidding? My dad wouldn't have been there anyway for the practice to begin with. So this whole scenario I'm out of. Yeah.
That's the thing about why, again, we talked about earlier, not having that many children, because it takes a lot of effort and time. You really want to do it right. Shit, I really think, in my opinion, and other people may be more organized than I am. I think 3's the limit. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, like, having 2 kids is probably the most ideal. I think having one by himself, they're lonely, having a brother or sister helps. But, like, I couldn't imagine spreading myself out for a 4th or a 5th. Or if I were to have, like, now it's like, okay, once my kids get older, like, if Ronan's in high school and I have another child, yeah, that's plausible now, because the attention he needs is not the extreme that a baby needs in the first few years, But it's, it takes a lot of effort to raise a child right, or to do your best effort. Fuck, who's to say what's right and wrong? We just do the best we can.
Yeah.
But it just takes so much. Like, I can't imagine how some people that, and I have a lot of head starts financially, time-wise, that other people don't have access to. And I still think that's fucking, like, God, this is hard.
Yeah. I like your idea of taking in one of the repos from the knuckle draggers, I'd show up with mine and be like, people would be like, Frank, why did Richard name his kid Elmer Wayne? And you'd be like, oh, he came with the name. Don't ask about that. Yeah.
Right. And that was Elmer Wayne a joke too? Did I miss that?
No, it's just one of those, like, guys with 2 first names.
Oh, okay, like
just
Billy Bob.
Just a hillbilly name that
Tom Ryan.
Yeah, Tom Ryan. That's not a good hillbilly name.
Oh, it's Tom and Ryan. I was just trying to think of
the best hillbilly names usually are like the middle names Wayne, Lee, or Dale.
See, I'm not an expert in this. Okay.
Yeah.
He has the great hillbilly name. He's a coach for the Detroit Lions. His name is Jim Bob Couture.
That is the king of the book.
Yeah,
that is a good one.
And no one ever calls him like Coach, on TV.
Yeah.
It's always the full name. It's like, Jim Bob Couture on the side. They never say Jim or Jim Bob. It's the full
now,
name.
Now, Jim Bob Couture has got to be a defensive coordinator, right?
I
a line coach.
Yeah,
That's
he's
not
like the
quarterback.
Yeah.
It's kind of bugging me. I think
that's definitely a line coach.
He might be the head coach right now. Hold on.
Really? Fuck.
All right. Well, while Mikey is looking up the exact job title of Jim Bob Couture with the Detroit Lions, here's Frank Mir to tell you how to follow the show on social media.
Well, if you're on Facebook or Instagram, you can follow us at Phone Booth Fighting. Snapchat and Twitter is just Phone Booth Fight.
That's it. Coming up on our next episode, I'm going to tease ahead. It is going to be a mixed martial arts double feature. We're going to have in studio Mike Platinum Perry, UFC welterweight that you just saw defeat Paul Felder, and also Julian Marquez, standout from the Tuesday Night Contender Series that the UFC is doing.
Another half-breed Cuban.
That's right. Yeah, he's half Cuban, just like Frank. We're going to have both the guys in studio. Both guys just recently fought weekend before last. So we'll talk about what's next for them.
Tape.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So they'll be here with us on the next episode. So look forward to that. Fight fans. Mikey, why don't you close it out and tell us what Jim Bob Couture does for the Detroit Lions?
Jim Bob Couture is an offensive coordinator, offensive guy, and he was a quarterback coach.
Oh,
we were
how about
completely
this?
fucking
Playing against type. He might be one of those like meth skinny hillbillies. You know, like they have those too, where they're just like skeletons.
I'm thinking of the fried chicken eating.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Barbecue motherfucker, big old beard.
Yeah,
you know.
he's got a relative like that. I guarantee you.
I'm thinking fucking. Who's our welterweight champ was?
Oh, Johnny Hendricks.
That's kind of when you think hillbilly. That's what I think about.
Right. All right. For Frank and for Mikey and for Jim Bob Couture, I'm Richard Hunter, and we'll see you right back here next time on Phone Booth Fighting.